a lot of the reason why we probably don't have more female directors is because we're all mums. Like we just can't.
Thank goodness you're here. Be quiet in mascara. Make me look presentable. I've never died before. I want to look nice when it happens. Being part of this family.
Do you all love your Nana?
Yeah! It's my biggest adventure.
Hi Kate, lovely to meet you and
Lovely to meet you
congratulations
too.
on Goodbye June. It's such a fantastic debut.
Thank you.
I actually covered the Lee premiere and I never quite got a chance to ask you a question, but the question I was going to ask you is if you would consider directing. So I feel like I envisioned this for you. But I'm curious if there was a specific moment in your career when you realised that you wanted to direct, or has it sort of been a gradual process?
It has been gradual, and actually what I found is that in the last 10 to 15 years, having formed really great relationships with directors that I've worked with, directors started to say to me, when are you going to direct? You know, you think like a director. Danny Boyle was the first one to say it when we did the Steve Jobs movie back in 2015. He said, you know, you think like a director, you do. And it gave me pause, and I sort of realised perhaps I was starting to do that, think that way. And I am quite a technical actress, so what I mean by that is that I have complete awareness of what the cameras are doing and how a scene is being constructed. And I also love the crew, and I have very connected relationships with those people always, and see it very much as a team effort. And as a director, you have to have that. So over the years, more and more people kept saying to me, when are you going to do? Actors would say it, and I would think, my God, maybe I actually need to be taking this a bit more seriously. But to be honest with you, I've been a mum since I was 25 years old, and so that has been my priority, and that combined alongside, you know, juggling the life of an actress, that's been full on enough. And the job of a director, you know, you don't just turn up and shoot for the 7 weeks. My God, there's the development process, there's the pre-production, the shoot itself, and then of course you go right into the edit. So this time last year I was doing press for Lee, and nobody knew that I was running around like a lunatic trying to assemble our crew for Goodbye June that I knew I was about to go into pre-production for. And so it's a much longer, literally time commitment. And actually I think a lot of the reason why we probably don't have more female directors is because we're all mums. Like we just can't. So in fact, taking this step, bringing my son's beautiful story to life and supporting him in making that happen, it's been incredible. But as well, the feeling of taking this leap and actively playing a part in hopefully changing the culture around female filmmakers is something that is important to me as well.
Absolutely. And Goodbye June, it evokes so much emotion, but a character that particularly moved me was Nurse Angel.
Nurse Angel, yeah.
Who to me felt a bit like an homage to the NHS and everything we kind of appreciate about that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of iconography of the NHS as well throughout the film, so I'm curious how important it was for you to find that thread.
It mattered enormously, because for the majority of people in this country, that's what we have. That's the service that we rely on. And it is extraordinary that we have this free national healthcare service, and that people work so hard, horrible hours for very little pay. And actually, I think that the work of doctors and nurses who work in end-of-life care and our palliative caregivers are absolutely extraordinary people. And it mattered not only to really get that right in terms of accuracy, in terms of the words that our characters say who play those parts and what Nurse Angel says, but that warmth and love that they give so unconditionally by choice. They haven't fallen into that role. They have chosen that as a life vocation. And that alone to me is so moving. And so with our film, it mattered that we not only found a brilliant actor, Fisayo Akiade, who plays Nurse Angel, he's so wonderful, but that our film felt warm. And actually I think it really does, you know, because hospitals can be stark, frightening, lonely, very overlit places. But in order to, you know, sort of emulate that copy that sense of warmth that those people emulate, it meant that we had ample opportunity to kind of honour the warmth and the love that they give and the remarkable work that they do.
Yeah, and that really shone through in the film.
Good.
And we obviously have to talk about Helen Mirren,
Yeah.
who is absolutely wonderful as the titular June and the matriarch of this family. But I noticed sort of towards the end of the film we get a lot of close-ups of her face, and she's almost got this sort of halo-like glow around her. Can you talk a little bit about how the process of finding those shots and working with Helen on those particular scenes?
So Helen actually doesn't like to know exactly how you're shooting something. But I would find myself wanting to tell her when we were going to be extremely close on her, because it is, as you say, extremely, extremely close, which for an actress who is having to make herself so vulnerable and appear so broken down and so fragile, which doesn't come naturally to Helen. She's a very robust woman. She's extremely stoic. She has a phenomenal sense of humour. She's very strong and physically sharp, physically agile and mentally very sharp. And I did deliberately hold back from going really close on Helen for almost the first half of the film, because it matters that when you're establishing a family, a very big family of people who have tricky relationships, and, you know, the sisters, they haven't spoken for years, and even Connor and Bernie, played by Tim Spall and Johnny Flynn, you know, a father and a son who live together in the same house, but they're not really communicating. They've sort of emotionally flatlined as well, and they're all dealing with the monotony of life with the matriarch and this illness, this disease, you know, the endless appointments and so on and so forth. So capturing that sense of how they've occupied these spaces before. They've been in that waiting room a million times, but the sisters haven't been in that waiting room together at all, ever. So to get that physical distance between them, I had to be brave enough to really hang back and see it, because you need to see those spaces. You need to see where they are physically placing themselves in order to establish that emotional dynamic amongst all of those family members. And so I did deliberately hold off on extreme close-ups at all until the point that June is alone with Connor when he reads her that poem, and it's quiet and she has a moment to just breathe and be, and you really do see right into her eyes that moment that she realises what she is also about to lose and to leave behind, and it's incredibly moving. But in order to do that, you know, Helen had to trust me, and I'm very, very fortunate that she did.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And if
you.
you'll forgive me for just what I'm about to talk about is Titanic. Just very briefly, because it is my absolute favourite film of all time. I've watched it multiple times a year, every year for the past 2 decades.
Oh my God.
You've obviously worked with James Cameron several times now.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you've learnt from him or another director that has really fed into your own directing style?
I mean, I've learnt so many wonderful things from multiple directors. I have obviously worked with more men than I have women, because that's just the way the industry kind of is. But I think from Jim, you know, just that ability to be able to include everybody, you know, that matters a lot. Although other directors, you know, things that I have found the most useful, for example, Stephen Frears, wonderful director who I worked with on a TV series called The Regime a couple of years ago. You know, the best thing he would say was, he'd say to the crew, don't plan anything, because the actors are going to come in and they'll show us. They'll show us. You know, and then he would say to me, so tell me, what do you think? How should this be? And completely empowering the actor to just tell the story and to reveal the emotions of each scene is absolutely the right way to do it. And I'm very lucky that I have experienced that many times in my life, and it definitely supported me in terms of how I wanted to be with all of our actors on Goodbye June.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and
You're
thank
welcome.
you for letting me sort of do my Titanic spiel.
Thank you. No
It's been a
worries.
pleasure, and congratulations.
Thank you.